frontline journalism is important. Without these photos and videos, you can't really tell the world how bad it might be.
James Foley, renowned American journalist and photographer, was abducted by ISIS in 2012.
These four guys with guns, they stopped the taxi and they put Jim into the back of their van.
After unsuccessful negotiations for his liberation, ISIS published a video in 2014 of his beheading.
Jim's strength and own courage at the end of his life challenged me as a mom in a big way. That if he could have the courage to stand up, I too should do my best to make things better.
Diane Foley runs the James W. Foley Legacy Foundation, supporting families of abducted journalists and advocates to improve the treatment and safety for freelance war correspondents.
I am so honored to be here today, and I thank Free Press Unlimited and The Hague. Such an honor to be in your city. I am the mother of Jim, an American independent conflict journalist. Jim was kidnapped in Syria while reporting there in 2012. He was starved and tortured for nearly 2 years, and then publicly beheaded by IS in 2014. As Leon so eloquently mentioned, this impunity against these crimes for journalists are a huge problem, because therefore they continue and continue. In the past 11 years, we have nearly 1,000 journalists who've been killed doing their job, bringing information, photographs, and news to the public. And these figures do not begin to tell the daily harassment that many journalists put up with online and in person, and as well as detention, torture, kidnapping, even sexual attacks. But sadly, only 1 in 10 of those crimes is ever prosecuted. So these crimes continue, and if anything, they've increased. During the 2 years of Jim's captivity, our US government told me to trust them, to say nothing, do nothing. I made countless trips to Washington, D.C., begging for assistance and asking media to help find him and bring Jim home. And now, 3 years later, I'm told once again to trust that something will be done to bring Jim's sadistic captors to justice. And yet no attorney has been named to prioritize a search for justice. Only one FBI agent continues to work this case and admits little progress. Following Jim's murder, we formed the James W. Foley Legacy Foundation. The Foley Foundation works with our government to make the return of all Americans held captive abroad a national priority. We also work with others like Free Press Unlimited to create a culture of safety to protect independent civilian and foreign conflict reporters. We have also created a safety curriculum for schools of journalism that stress core competencies of risk assessment and digital security. And we work to raise awareness about these very real threats to our Western freedom. I thank UNESCO for the End Impunity campaign, because this lack of accountability for crimes against journalists allows those who want to silence the press to continue their brutal targeting, totally undaunted by any repercussions or justice for those victimized. I totally agree with Leon. We must loudly condemn this increasing persistent violence. We must call for justice for these perpetrators of crimes against humanity. I'm reminded that our son Jim was very proud to come here to The Hague in 2012 to the International Criminal Court to testify against Gaddafi. So I am so honored to return here to your fair city to seek justice for our son's horrific public execution. This invitation by Free Press Unlimited has helped me find my voice. If I do not demand justice for Jim's murder, who will? Jim was passionate about press freedom and human rights, as I know so many of you are. Jim understood that true investigative journalism gives voice to those oppressed by war, poverty, or inequity, and hearing those voices is essential for our freedom. Jim once said, and I'll quote, "For some reason I have physical courage, but really think about it. That is nothing compared to moral courage. I can go and get those shots, but if I don't have the moral courage to challenge authority, to write about things that may bring reprisals on my career, if I don't have that moral courage, we don't have journalism." Jim aspired to be a man of moral courage. He challenges me daily to aspire to make this a better world. So I am here also to challenge you to continue to be committed, passionate journalists. But I also challenge you to protect yourself by becoming very skilled at risk assessment, at digital security, so that you can continue to be the strong voices for truth in our troubled world. We are called to action. We must stand together to demand justice for deliberate crimes against journalists. We must dare to challenge those who forget the sacrifices made by so many journalists, civilian and foreign. I hope that Jim inspires each of you to be people of moral courage. Each of us have choices many times a day. Should I speak up to the bully? Do you dare to cover the truth and report it? Do I dare to challenge my government and demand justice for Jim? Hatred and fear are terrorizing our world and working hard to silence voices calling for truth and justice. Do not allow yourself to be silenced. This outrageous impunity for crimes against you courageous journalists threatens our freedom and our very humanity. Thank you for listening.